Good morning, folks. Dr. John Taylor Kent here. This is my main channel. It's been around for a while. Couldn't upload for a couple of weeks. I lost viewers because of that. YouTube took down the FBI as NFG video under false premises. The FBI, the government, controls YouTube. They're not an independent thing. They're owned by the government. It's a PSYOP. It's government operations. It's part of your Stasi, your secret police. And this is election day. And you cannot vote your way out of the trouble that you're in. I'm sorry to say, if you're lucky, you might just get rid of the real bad people, the communists, Democrats, the real tyrants, the real Nazis. And if you don't vote them out, then we're going to really get clamped down. You're going to see it really get cranked up in the next 2 years if you have failed to vote the bastards out. So if you want to make America good again, well, if you want to make America great again, you have to make America good again. That means you have to be good. We all have to do our part. The battleground is for each one of us, our minds and our characters. And so we have to be willing to make certain sacrifices. We have to accept very awkward matters, very horrible things, and yet remind ourselves of the ideals to which we are committed, to our values, and to recommit to those, just like a bunch of drug users. Every day we have to avoid the dope. We have to put the dope down. We have to remind ourselves daily to choose wisely, to choose better, and to hold on to those higher ideals and to try to live those as best we can. If we do not do that on an individual level, we're not going to make America good again. If we don't make America good again, there is no greatness. So that's why you're suffering today. You know, it's just a slogan, make America great again. How about making America good again? Because it was the goodness that made America great. It was living by the 10 Commandments, following the law of Yahweh, the agreement we made, our foremothers made at Mount Sinai in the Arabia. Yep, and we're breaking that. And if you want to know what the curses are for breaking the 10 Commandments, they're written in the Bible, in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. I don't want to go to that. This channel is more about the political ramifications of things. Real life matters rather than just the Bible. When we were founded, our founders came here for religious freedom. That's right, persecuted. They didn't want us back in England. They didn't want us in Europe. We came over here. We were blessed. We had a couple different versions of the Bible. The King James Bible, certainly. We also had the Geneva Bible, which is a decent version of the Bible as well. We all knew our Bibles. We were all schooled on those. And of course, I remember as a youngster thinking, why do we want to waste our time with that? There's a lot of other stuff to read. I didn't realize what was in the Bible. Didn't realize how important it was. So if you really do want to save Western civilization, and if you want to shore it up, then do your duty to God and your country, which is to feed yourself good stuff. Go read the Bible. Didn't think I'd be preaching about that on this channel, but I am. You don't have a democracy. You've got this oligarchy. You've got a couple of justice systems. You have one justice system which is cranking down on almost all of us, and you have another one which is actually hiding the crimes that their folks are committing. Yeah. Yeah, the FBI is no good. It's no good. We need to go back to self-rule, which means we need the militias. And I know you guys think we can't have the militia. We've got the guard and all that stuff. I'm sorry, that's not the same. When the people make up the militia, it is self-rule. You know, when the average man is called to bear arms and to be a part of the militia in good standing, it does several things. It puts the average man under authority. So you've got to be a man in good standing. You'll have officers above you, you know, and you'll be beholden to them. And you'll want to be a good citizen, a man in good standing with the rest of the militia. And we had private militias as well as state militias. And we need to go back to those. Now, I'm not saying defund the police. But once you have a local militia, the police have got such backing that you can probably actually relax upon those expenditures to a large extent. And you know, if a police officer knows he needs some backing, all he's got to do is call the militia up. A bunch of his buddies show up with their arms. It's a show of force. And hopefully not much more is necessary. Whoever they need to take into custody will go willingly when they realize that you're not going to overcome. But we need to go back to being free men. And there was a principle which an inmate introduced me to when I was working as a corrections psychologist. And this guy was a young fellow, and he was brilliant. He was really sharp. His crime was forgery or frauds or something along those lines. He discovered the fraudulent nature of our mortgage system and how banking was done. Yes, it's a criminal thing that they do. And he figured it out. And he figured out how to beat them at their own game, how to play that same game. Didn't quite play it right or fairly. Well, they caught him. I'm sure it was on a technicality that he didn't understand, but he understood the nature of the fraud. They don't give you any money. They take your promissory note, your promise to pay, and they, based upon this horrible, fraudulent banking system, which gives ungodly power and wealth to the minority running this show here, who have stolen the country, who run it today, who own it, lock, stock, and barrel. Or should I say locks? Goldilocks. Locks as in salmon. You know, that food that certain people were not allowed to criticize, who were ruling over us, like. Sorry, folks, but that's the fact. And that group need to clean up their ranks, but we need to take our power back. We need to stop their fractal banking, because they'll take that mortgage, they'll turn that son of a bitch over as if it was an asset. They get to turn it into an asset, and they stamp on it for deposit. And now your $300,000 mortgage becomes a $300,000 asset for them. And based upon that debt instrument, you have allowed them to lend out sevenfold in currency. Talk about inflation. So your $300,000, which was created out of nothing based upon your promise, is now turned into $2.1 million they can lend out and collect interest on. Oh, and if they want to go a step further, they can stamp on it for deposit without recourse. And as a result, they can lend out 10 times the face value. So your $300,000 mortgage becomes $3 million of assets to them that they can use to buy real stuff with or lend out at interest. You like this money system. You love your bondage. You are bond servants. You know that, don't you? We were bond servants in Egypt. Why shouldn't we be bond servants now? when the devil and his children continue to own and run the world. You see, the Satan stuff is real. And them owning the world and having the power is real. And us getting it back, that's real too. How do we do that? We make America good again. We have to go step by step, and they will fight us every step of the way. And there's a lot of risk because right now they're trying to get another world war going. That's how they control us, is they put us against our brothers. Yeah, Russia, our brothers. Russia, the czars of which actually protected us as a young nation. We would not be here today if it was not for the Russian czar. The last time they stepped in, it cost them their entire family's lives and fortunes. And that invasion was launched from Manhattan, from New York. We allowed those people to send over mobsters, basically, to send over a horrible group of people who took over that country and killed the Tsar and his family and stole all of his gold and brought it into the banking system. So if there ever is an heir to the estate of the Tsar, when they come forward, it really needs to be returned to the rightful heirs, not to those who stole it. But the theft of gold is a tradition at this point. The theft of the gold at the World Trade Center, yeah, that occurred. The theft of the gold that Gaddafi had for him and his people, that occurred. The theft of the gold that Saddam Hussein had, that he obtained legally, yes, that happened. Yeah, you need to understand, America is not good anymore. Just like our FBI is not good anymore. We've allowed ourselves to be, we've allowed this. We have permitted this, and we continue to permit it. The number one thing you can do is stop participating. I'm not saying be violent about it. Oh no, don't do that. They would love that. They've been itching. They've been trying to get us to fight one another. Don't you see how divided they have us? And they've conquered us because of that? Folks, you can recover from this. You read the Bible. You feed yourself good stuff. Read the Shakespearean plays. Those will help you as well. Read some of the great poets. And above all, read the Constitution. Read the Declaration of Independence. Read the Bill of Rights. They're lying about what's in those documents. You know, the health and welfare didn't give them this medical tyranny. And by the way, most of us are being killed by medical mistakes, medical errors. I think it's going to be around 90% of us die due to medical errors, only 10% due to natural causes and accidents. For years, it was 500,000 of us died a year, 400,000 of which were due to medical errors. And yet we give them license and a monopoly to practice, and we pay them 2.5 times more than the second highest profession, than the attorneys, and we turn them into God. My doctor says, the doctor's this or that, letter from the doctor. Everything is based upon the doctors. Oh my God. Women were not allowed, married women were not allowed to work outside of the home. The Democrats made that the law, ladies. Love that one, huh? You couldn't work outside of the home unless your husband was confirmed by a medical doctor as medically interred, unable to go to work. Then you could work outside of the home. And that was the 7th plank of the New Deal, was the law of the land for 7 years, until the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. And you all want to vote Democrat. We have to make America good again. The only way to do that as if we do good individually. It does come down to that. So each one of us has to be revolutionary. We have to return to self rule. Yet, the only way we can really do that properly is by abiding by the Ten Commandments. You want to disagree with it? You want a license to sin, to commit crime, to harm your fellow human being, to damage your fellow human being, to rob your fellow human being? All of that stuff's been institutionalized at this point. It's just like the racism. It's institutionalized. Don't kid yourselves. The racism is required. You must discriminate against white men. That's the law. That's federal law. The way they define things is that you have to do that. And so it's true. Those laws need to go by the wayside. You know, dumbass white women think that, oh, it's a good thing. We're top dog now. You know, we're given the jobs over the men. We're given the power over the men. Yeah, and now you want us to defend you. And you have taken away all of the means by which we can do that. I don't defend any more women. I just won't do it. I know something will kick in and I'll probably do it by mistake. But it's like, why should I defend you when you attack me? Especially as I get older. The level of disrespect is just outstanding. You know, my mother reared me a particular way. And one of those guidelines was, you will give your, well, several of the guidelines. You're going to open the door for a woman. Open the door. You're going to hold the door for a woman. You're going to offer a woman your seat. You're going to give up your seat. You're going to do all of these things, all of these chivalrous things. And then my mother has to accuse me of being a male. I don't know what to say anymore. I mean, she told me how much of a male chauvinist pig I was, basically, and I listened to my mom like I always listened to her. And at the end of her spouting off about this stuff, I looked at her and says, well, Mom, you raised me this way. That shut her up pretty good. By the way, one of those directives were, you will compliment a woman. I want you to remember that. You'll compliment a woman. And if you have to make something up, you'll make something up. If you have to lie, you'll compliment a woman. I remember that. I remember going into the dental hygienist and she had a red sweater on and I complimented her on the red sweater. And it was a handmade sweater. There was really nothing special about it. Of course, today that would be a special sweater. Oh, such a pretty girl. Such a good girl. She's got her head on my arm right here with her eyes looking up at me. She wants some attention. Okay. Ladies, you know, when we compliment you, now it's simping. New word. Learned it this last year. So basically, Mom, we were a bunch of simps. We were turned into simps. And then I see that we still live up to it. I mean, every time an average woman puts her picture up, the claim is how beautiful, how gorgeous, how unrealistic the expectations we create in that woman are. It's like, you're okay looking, you're not offensive looking, but yet we have to tell her and build her up. And she thinks she's real special because of that. She gets the princess complex and thinks she has more value than what she has, and thinks it's okay to walk on men. It's okay to reject good men. She'll get one later, not realizing that the wall is coming. And once the wall hits, that's it. Nobody's interested in her. Once she's well used and used up, who wants her? Once she's been around the block with every, Tom, Dick, and whatever, Jane as well, I mean, she's not able to pair bond anymore. She's destroyed that ability chemically. We've got the research on that. It's not well researched because it doesn't fit our keeper's narrative. So they're not going to fund that research. But you will find out that a woman's chemistry is much more fragile than a male's, that it requires more balancing, more care. It requires protection. It requires a safe environment, which we used to give you all back before we became the enemy. And you want to tell me it's my body, it's my right. You want to tell me it's your body, it's your right, and you want to murder my child. So, it's your body, and you want to have total control. When it's not your body, you only contribute one cell. One. And a man contributes the other cell. So when are men going to have rights to their own children? When is it going to come down to that a woman, a female who is pregnant, who has become pregnant, is required to inform the male? And if she wants to have an abortion, required to get the consent of the father. And if that male says, no, I want my baby, I want my child, when are we men going to get our rights? We don't have any rights. The women, you've taken it all. And you want us to be fair? You want us to enable you to murder our children? My God, a man should be able to walk into a courtroom and say, Your Honor, that's my child. I want my child. And the judge should say, the judge should give you that child. You should be awarded sole custody of that child since the woman wants to murder the child. She wants to kill your child. She wants to murder the infant. Now, it's not really either one of their bodies. It's the child's body. That child, that soul, came into existence at the moment of the union of the egg and that sperm. At that moment, a bright spark of light is emitted. And that spark of light, the brighter the spark of light, the bigger that soul, the more important that human being is. I'm sorry, we're not all created equal. Some of us are given more talents. God knows what He's doing. He forms us in the womb. He probably knows us before even these two come together. But you want to play God. You women want to rule the roost. You will not allow fathers their rights. You are enabled by this errant family court system to alienate parental rights. When is it going to be a crime to alienate a parent? It should be a crime, a felony, to alienate the affections of a parent. That parent, which most often is the female, should be charged, tried, and convicted of a crime and turned into a felon, in my opinion, deprived of all their rights. And voting. Did you know that you ladies have the right to vote because of that errant amendment? Yes, that amendment is out of order. It should be challenged in the courts and made null and void. And you're going to say, you want to take away our right to vote? Got news for you, baby. Men never had a right to vote. Show me where men have the right to vote or ever had the right to vote. It's not a federal right. It's not a right enumerated in the Constitution. It's a state's issue. And so when you fell for going for an amendment, you federalized the elections. You helped feed the beast, this monster that's out of control. Oh, World War III is coming and you're going to be drafted. How nice. You wanted equality. Your daughters are going to be drafted too. You wanted equality. You want to be able to have the glory of war. Oh, I know there's A-110 pilots out there, females that are, well, let's put it this way. I certainly wouldn't want to be in their line of fire. They're willing to do very great harm to the target. They're actually far more vicious than the men. It's what the Israelis, not Israelites, the Israelis, that identity thieving nation over there. Yes, that's the biggest identity theft in history. They're pretending they're the chosen people. They're pretending they're the descendant people of the Israelites. Some are. There is a residue there. My reading of the Bible, the Old Testament tells me there's a residue in Jerusalem. Residue, not even a remnant. Okay? And we have that little postage stamp of a country over there running America around, leading us by our noses. And you can't stop them. They're in the gates. They're in the gates of power. They have an unequal representation on the Supreme Court. 40% of the Supreme Court is Jewish. There's not a single WASP on the Supreme Court. The WASP founded this nation. It certainly isn't our country anymore. You won't allow us. You have to discriminate against us. No nation has survived that has allowed women to do what women have been allowed to do in this country. Every nation that has seen the change in women and social mores to this extent, that has allowed this to happen, has disappeared from the face of the earth. So, America, it is over. It's just a matter of time. Now, I think the genie can go back in the bottle. I think it's been done once before. One man did it. He didn't make it. Well, actually, he lived his natural life out. But his people didn't make it. The rest of the world ganged up against them. We have the same thing going on right now. And things are getting more mixed up and worse all the time. All because we have a group of devil's children, that's what I call them, who refuse to join humanity. They won't do good. Instead, they unite against every nation that allows them to live inside of it. They take them down. Alcohol is one of their main tools that they use. So look at the famous bootleggers and bootlegging families.